Never shall innocent blood be shed. Yet the blood of the wicked shall flow like a river. The three shall spread their blackened wings and be the vengeful striking hammer of God. You people have been chosen to reveal our existence to the world. You will witness what happens here today, and you will tell of it later. All eyes to the front. You must watch, dear. It'll all be over soon.
Now you will receive us. We do not ask for your poor or your hungry. We do not want your tired and sick.
It is your corrupt we claim.
It is your evil that will be sought by us.
With every breath, we shall hunt them down.
Each day, we will spill their blood till it rains down from the skies.
Do not kill, do not rape, do not steal. These are principles which every man of every faith can embrace.
These are not polite suggestions. These are codes of behavior. And those of you that ignore them will pay the dearest cost.
There are varying degrees of evil. We urge you lesser forms of filth, not to push the bounds and cross over into true corruption, into our domain.
For if you do, one day you will look behind you and you will see we three. And on that day, you will reap it.
And we will send you to whatever God you wish.
And shepherds we shall be, for thee, my Lord, for thee. Power hath descended forth from thy hand. May swiftly carry out thy command. So we shall flow ever forth to thee, and teeming with souls shall it ever be.
In nomine Patri.
Et Filii, Spiritus Sancti. How far are we going to take this star?
The question is not how far. The question is, do you possess the Constitution? The depth of faith to go as far as is needed?
Hey guys.
Hey, Nick, you there?
Yeah. I
Got
got
it
my
sorted out?
yeah, it's charging now, so I'll at least be good throughout for the next 12 hours.
Okay.
Probably.
Good.
All right.
Oh, are we talking about policy and politics tonight?
Less politics, more policy. You know, we had a lot of fun.
Oh, is there a difference?
Oh God, yes, is there a difference? You know, we've had a lot of fun the past few streams. You know, we've been yucking it up. We've been talking about a lot of problems, but the internet is full of people who are willing and able and enthusiastic about talking about problems. The solutions side of the equation gets much less enthusiasm and attention. So that's kind of what I want to do tonight.
When I identify a problem, I always think somebody should do something about that.
Oh, you know what I was taught? When somebody had a good idea like that in church, we say, yeah, that sounds great. You should do that.
Hey,
Yeah, guys, if you want something done, you're going to have to do it. You know, it's all fine and good to get up on the internet and, you know, call women whores, which they are, but that's a different topic. You know,
you know what? I just want to be a keyboard warrior, and then trust the plan.
oh, you don't want to have to
There are white hats out there who have a plan. I'm just going to trust the plan that they're going to come in and save it. We're going to see indictments. We're going to see arrests. Donald Trump is going to drain the swamp. And you know what? I just have to be here typing away, being the keyboard warrior, and trust the plan.
So Donald Trump will save us all. We don't have he's in office, he's got everything under control. We can just sit back and continue to point out problems without having to do anything else.
Yeah.
He's King Cyrus for real this time.
Well, we're men here. And as men, we understand that world is the world of fairy tales and ponies and rainbows and women. Men understand that there's work involved. Now, part of the reason that I had the idea to do this stream is because of something I said a couple weeks ago. And that is your Twitter account, your YouTube, especially your Facebook account is going to be far more valuable in the coming years and fights than any boomstick you might own. I'm not saying the boomsticks are bad. I love them, but I don't think that that's actually going to solve the problems, because as one of my instructors used to say, boomsticks are for when there are no options. Right? It's you don't, there are no choices, there are no options. It's literally just you have to go. And there's going to be a cost associated with doing that, a steep one. So tonight, my goal is to try and give you guys some policies, some actual policies, either cultural or political, and we'll get into the difference here in a minute, that you can advocate for, that you can encourage other men, that you can say, look, a man asks you, well, okay, I agree that this is all a problem. What do I do? And you can tell that man, this is what you do. Because as Rollo famously says, and he is right, you can't tell people the data without telling them how to feel about the data. I adjust it to how to think about the data or what to do about the data. People, we talk about hierarchy a lot here. Most people are not going to be the ones telling people what to do. They're going to be the people who are being told what to do. And most of them are okay with that.
Yeah, most people don't want to be the person who decides and tells others what to do. Most people are more content to be followers. And I'm talking about men here.
Yes.
Women do want to tell others what to do, but they don't want to lead. There are a handful of men who have the ability to lead and see and say, okay, this is what we should do. And if they tell other men will follow. But if you give all that data to other men, they won't know what to do with it. And they won't come up with a solution. In engineering, you call it analysis paralysis. But really, most people don't have the ability to analyze information, to know what things to keep. Yep, that's an important fact. Oh, here's another fact. Nope, that one's immaterial. Throw it out. And to weave through and come up with a path. And that's kind of what engineers do. We take in a huge amount of data, we discard all the meaningless stuff, and we pick things out. And it takes skill to do that, to know what is material and what is not material. I can illustrate that with, you remember back in grade school, maybe this is just from my age, story problems. I love story problems.
They were so annoying.
Yes, they're annoying because they make you actually think.
I got them, but just took longer.
I know. So, there are a few people out there like me who just love the story problems because I get to go and pick out that, okay, here's the important thing. This is important. This is bullshit. And then distill it down, get the answer. Wow, that was fun. And it just, most people detest story problems. That's why most people are followers and very few people are leaders who have the ability to see through the fog to come up with what we should do.
Steve, even in my undergraduate days, I'd have to take the tests up to the professor and ask him what the hell he meant by the story problems, because I could take it 3 different ways because he wasn't extremely specific enough. And then he'd have to get up in front of the class and explain to the class what exactly he meant on that story problem instead of what was presented on the story problem.
Well, that's
Nick. You're too smart by half.
Well, I wanted to make sure I got it right.
Exactly. You're too smart. You realize you saw the ambiguity that other people don't see. And that's the problem. You've actually identified the problem that most people have. They don't see the ambiguity. And then you say, well, how did they get the right answer? Well, because the question was written in such a way that they could answer it. It's no, I can't say that word. There's a phrase, the soft blank of low expectations. There, I can say it that way. You guys will know what I mean. Now, I want to address something before we dive into it. And that is, why should you listen to us? Now, I'm not going to sit up here and say that, we are some hyper intelligent masters of the universe who have all the answers. We are not. But all I can offer you is we've thought about this. We have some solutions in mind. So with that, what I'm going to say is look, if as we're walking through a policy solution tonight and you disagree with something or you have questions about it, hit us up in the live chat if we're still going. Otherwise, leave a comment for us. I'll do my best to try and get back to you. I've go ahead.
Okay,
Steve.
let me kind of say the same thing. Why should you listen to us? Well, three guys, reasonably smart, who have put thought into it and are going to propose something. Now, the only reason to listen to this is because we put thought into it and are proposing it. And it will make you think. Now, if you think about what we're saying or what Plutarch is going to say, and you disagree, great. Find the flaw, correct the flaw, and come up with a better idea.
Please do. Please do.
So even if you disagree vehemently with us, okay, then listen carefully. Find the flaw, the factual flaw, not the flaw in how you feel or your ideology. No, you have to deal with reality and not your feelings. And find the flaw and come up with an alternative. Because there will be alternatives. I'll guarantee you that. There will be alternatives.
Absolutely.
How many ways are there to skin a cat?
Many is the only answer. So really the thing I want to start with is we assume that policy is political. And Nick, you even started, are we going to be talking about politics tonight? And the answer is, not really, no. We are going to be talking policy is what are I'm going to use a term that I don't like, but it works for this because I'm trying to redefine it here. Policy is a set of rules and norms that are agreed upon by the tribe. Okay. So policies are not just political and governmental in nature. Steve, you were talking about engineering. They don't call it social engineering for nothing. Humans can be socially engineered. But that also then means that there's a flip side to that, and that is social policy. What are the policies that the society and the culture impose on the tribe, on the group of people? Now, we can define the tribe however broadly or narrowly we need to for a given policy. Nation states are a very common way of doing so in this modern era. So for most of the policies discussed tonight, we will be referring to the United States as a nation state. However, many of these policies would be equally applicable in Europe or Asia. They might have certain differences based on particular. I'm thinking, you apply this policy to Japan, you're going to have to adjust it for their culture. But really, one thing that Ben Shapiro says that I absolutely do agree with is that policy is downstream of culture. Policy is downstream of society because the society is deciding what rules to live by. Okay. And this is why I said earlier, your Twitter account, your Facebook account, probably even more than your Twitter account because Twitter's gotten a little echo chambery, but there's still lots of boomer cons on Facebook who need to be educated. Okay. That's why I said that they're going to be so much more important than a boomstick, because society determines the policies. And so if you want these policies to come true, if you want them to be put in place, then you have to advocate for them. You have to explain to people what the policy is, what it's going to change, and what it's going to fix. And then you have to remember what we said. We said, people want to be told what to do. Well, you're going to tell them what to do. Yes, Steve?
Things are changing. People think, oh, why is this going to work? It does work. You've all heard of propaganda. That's imposed by people wanting to make you think a different way. And there's the consensus of the population, which is kind of different than the propaganda. For instance, just think from 3 years ago till today. 3 years ago, the consensus was everybody should get the jab. Now people don't give a shit. And, there is a growing number of people who say that's a bad idea. Okay, 3 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, there wasn't much talk about Israel good, bad. Now, there's lots of talk about that. So, what people are saying and what people are believing and the culture or the consensus of the population does change over time. Just because it changes from the bottom up, or call it from the top down with propaganda. It's always changing. So are you going to be a part of that change? We are not here to advocate, just impose this policy. It's not that simple. But when we start talking about these things and then other people talk about it, then possibilities open up.
Well, and we'll get into this topic at the end of the show, or towards the end of the show. You've seen some of that with the immigration debate. Immigration used to be a third rail of politics. Or another example, Twitter is having a dual meltdown over EBT. That's been in the news this week. So you've got one half of Twitter that's melting down over EBT getting cut off, and the other half that is melting down over learning that they are paying for this many people to live better lives than they are. And so that's why I said it's a dual track meltdown. Could you imagine having talked about this 5 years ago, Steve?
Plutarch, what's the population of the U.S.? Round numbers.
About 325 million.
How many people are on EBT?
42 million.
Oh, gee, what percentage is that?
It's 12. It's 12 and a half.
12%.
Yeah, we'll call it 12.
12 and a half or whatever. Yeah, damn, that's a lot of people.
Oh, but it gets, now I have a chart for this, but and I'm not going to pull it up now, but because of course I have a fucking chart, and I am who I am.
He's a chart for everything, just about.
Yeah. Yes, Smoking Patriot, roughly 1 out of 8. That's about 12.5%. It's somewhere in there. That is a true and accurate number. Now, a preview of this chart. What percentage of legal immigrants do you think are on EBT?
Legal immigrants.
Oh, yeah.
Legal immigrants, 10%.
Oh, do I have some bad news for you boys. I love you guys because, for all of your, you guys, you are these, hardened, conspiracy, the world's out to get you. You still have some of that American, things are going to be
okay.
Just fine.
Hold on. Let me revise that. Because I know most of the Somalis in Minnesota are legal immigrants. And they're About 60 to 70% of them are on EBT, as far as I know. So my 10% is probably wrong because in my mind I was disregarding the legal immigrants who are on refugee status, self-proclaimed refugee status. So no, it's probably closer to 50% overall.
So for legal immigrants, the answer is 34% are on food. For illegal immigrants, it's 48%.
Okay.
But they're
Yeah.
illegal.
Nick. Now, I don't want to get too deep into the immigration policy because immigration is actually going to be the thing that ends up tying all of this together. And that's why I have it for the end. But we were talking about it. I wanted to ask the question.
But Plutarch, I'm going to put on my Democrat hat here.
No.
Yeah, okay, that might be true. But 89% of the people on getting EBT benefits are American white people. So
factually incorrect, but okay.
Oh, well, it's just up there.
No, it's factually incorrect. Most EBT users are not white. Like that's just. I'm sorry.
Okay, most are Americans then. Most are native-born Americans. The majority of the recipients.
Okay, I am going to sit on my chart, and I will save that for the end because.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Wrong. Okay. Hey, you know what? I don't mind being proven wrong because I was wearing my Democrat hat.
There we go. Yeah, it is. Most of the talking points that you get from the left and the right are just horrifically wrong. I mean, data-wise, they are so divorced from reality that they're worthless. And I am including the Fox News set in this. I sometimes called the boomer cons. Just those people are just as far out to lunch as the Democrats are. They have no clue. I'm not even sure telling them the data would do anything. Okay, so we've been talking about policy, but we haven't actually talked a policy yet. Steve and I were talking before the show while Nick was working through his technical difficulties. So,
yeah,
it is what it is. But Nick, you'll have something to say on this. Yes, there are policies that are government policies, but there's also social policy. And before we get too down, here's some policy recommendations. I just want to take a minute to talk about a social policy that is already being executed and is working. And that policy is what we have termed, we actually have a whole show on this, the Baskerville solution. You can go, you can go look it up. The Baskerville solution is a social policy that states that until the marriage law, the political policies are changed, men should not participate in state, in any form of state marriage. I would argue that because of common law states that you should probably just not cohabitate with women. And as Christians, we would certainly also find that to be a Christian solution, is you do not cohabitate with women. Correct. It is just okay, Nick.
Yeah.
Oh, you were saying something. I stepped on.
Yeah, we don't cohabitate. Just you don't. Now, could you be in a non-common law marriage state and be married in the eyes of the church? Sure. I think that's fine.
Sure.
Even then, best not to cohabitate with her. You can have a common
What's
law
that, Steve?
marriage, and she can have her place over there. You can have your place over here.
Well,
She can
here's the
have
thing.
her dowry place.
Yeah, yes.
Well, I mean, Rich Cooper talks about that. This is a really complicated thing. I don't know if it would work in practice, but you could, I mean, theoretically, you can be exclusive with one woman and be committed to one woman, and she's committed to you, and her place is over there, your place is here. That keeps your property secure. It's in your name, your lease or your ownership of that property is in your name. So even if she were to separate from you, and even if you didn't have a legal marriage, she has no recourse to say, oh, I now am entitled to half his property. Okay, we are in extreme times right now. Extreme times require extreme measures.
Agreed.
Do I know if it's going to work? I don't know. I'm just pointing it out.
One of the things that I find difficult with the typical red pill solutions to these problems, and kudos to Rich Cooper for thinking out of the box on a little bit on this one, is that most of their solutions are an attempt to make something that works for men within the existing structures. You know, I have listened to some highly intelligent red pill men deliver these treatises on these massively complex schemes for protecting their stuff, their resources.
Right.
And you know, I keep going back to, you know, even Steve, before the show we were having a conversation, and Steve tried to say, oh well, before you do that you should do this, and I what I tell Steve, what I tell you?
He said, Steve, you're too damn smart. Most people couldn't implement that. It's too complicated. You got to make it simple. And I agreed with you.
Yeah, we were talking about,
you're right.
we were talking about it was a post that Pearl did on Twitter. You know, she was asking, oh well, you know, is it better, you know, for, you know, if a in a sexless marriage, is it, you know, better for a man to cheat or watch porn, or, and I said, no, the answer is divorce. Because the reason that
if your wife is not putting out.
Yeah, if in a sexless marriage, you know, is it
right,
better to cheat or to watch porn? And the answer is neither. The answer is divorce. And there's a whole biblical reason for that, right? And we've gone over that on our streams before. But
Right.
you know, and then Steve said, "Oh, well, you should try to do this first." And I'm like, "Steve, that's great. Maybe 1% of the population could actually pull that off and make it work. For most people, for most people, it's exactly what Rollo says. You tell them the data, and then you have to tell them what to do about it. And the solution has to be a simple one-step solution. Do I wish we could do these complex solutions? Of course I do. You know, I'm an intelligent man. I'm capable of managing complexity. You know, I can do that. But I have to be able to look at what's around me and say, nope, they can't do that. And this isn't to say that these men are bad.
The complex solution might work. Might work perfectly. Probably not. But for the sake of argument, let's say the complex solution works perfectly. Most people are not capable of implementing a complex solution. And the situation they're in is not, no two situations are exactly the same. No two people are exactly the same. And so you're going to have to adapt and read each other and analyze and evolve and flex your what you're doing. No, it's too many variables. Most people can't do it. I think I could do it, but I might be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm still safer taking the simple solution.
Well, and see, and that's the thing. Even if you're an intelligent man, the solution that works for the average man will work for you too. And it will probably be, it'll probably cost you, the intelligent man, less energy and effort and heartache to do the simple solution. And so, what we were talking about divorce, but think about the Baskerville solution. Why do we love it? Because it's simple. The answer is
Right.
don't do anything with women. That's it.
It's not a policy. It's a groundswell. It's a grassroots reaction of thousands, hundreds of thousands of men reaching the same conclusion. They're not following a policy. They never heard of this. They're just doing their own best interest. They're just analyzing independently and looking at it. And as a group evolves, it becomes a consensus. And then it grows from there. And other men take notice. And oh, yeah, I think you're right. And so it's happening. And you know what? People are losing their shit over it. The feminists and the tradcons and the government.
So I'm going to take a slight detour because Shu made a great point. And if they're intelligent enough to solve multiple factors in that equation, they'll often lack the discipline to succeed. Right. The problem with complexity is that it's difficult to pull off. Okay.
Right.
Even if you are good at what you're doing.
Here's another problem, which I've experienced. Yeah, it would have worked, except I just missed that one thing that
Yep.
caused me to fail.
Well, so
I was too damn thought I had it all.
And she
handled.
still leaves your ass.
yep.
Yes.
Well,
And she
because-
still leaves.
Well, because Nick, what do women have? They have this annoying little thing called what?
Agency. Yeah.
A woman can wake up and decide to do something, and you can't stop her. Wow. I was just on Twitter lambasting a boy who likes to think he's a man for that exact framing error.
Does he have a 500-pound deadlift?
Yes, he is. He is one of those.
Oh, it's that guy.
I don't know if it is that exact. I don't know if it's that
Oh,
exact
God.
guy, but it's one of those dudes who thinks lifting is all that's required to keep a woman. I'm not saying lifting's bad, but geez, dude, like it's gonna require a little more than that. Anyway,
I mean, they put it in their profile. Like, what's important to them, apparently.
hey, people will tell you what's important to them, and
Oh my God.
but that's the thing, Steve. You're talking about groundswell, grassroots. Here's the thing. What you really said is individual men created a policy for their own lives that just happened to be a policy shared by hundreds of thousands or millions of other men. That is the
Yes.
definition of a social policy.
Okay.
See, here's the thing. We, since the end of World War II and the creation of the Bretton Woods system, which is really a U.S. security blanket over world trade, that's what Bretton Woods was. We have gotten used to this idea that everything is downstream of economics. But if you study history at any point before World War II, it becomes immediately apparent that economics is not even a factor in most political or social issues. World War One did not happen because of economics. It happened because of a Byzantine labyrinth of treaties. Okay, that's not economics. There was nothing economic about World War One, and we're talking, this was 20 years before World War II. That's it. But we have it in our heads now that economics can be used to solve all problems, because when you have a security guarantor who is taking all of those other issues and smothering them in a blanket of hyper-militarism, the United States military is larger than the next 10 militaries combined, except with the exception of China. You take China out, every other military, okay. That kind of security blanket means that something like economics can rise to the top. But in the totality of human history up to the end of World War II, policy is downstream of society, of culture, and economics is downstream of policy by a long way. You're not going to, presidents talk about economic policy. I don't give a fuck. They won't be able to do what they say they're going to do anyway. Economic policy is an afterthought of pre-World War II policy.
Well, yeah, economics doesn't really matter. It's my policy, my beliefs of the future, how much money I have, what I value. Do I need to save for the future? Do I need to buy a new car to show off? I don't really care what the economic policy is of the country. That's not going to determine how much money I spend.
Right. But, Steve, look at what's happening with the Baskerville solution. Hundreds of thousands to millions of men all collectively got together and decided, yeah, we're not sharing our resources with women anymore. And the social paroxysms that have, moved through society over the past few years as a result of that have been enormous. A few men get together, decide they're not going to do something, and all of a sudden, the world is ending according to women. All of the economists in the world could not have dreamed up such social movement at the speed and scale you're seeing.
But it snuck up.
It's only getting better.
Nobody saw it, and even now, it's like, oh, they just realized it. It's been happening. It's
for years,
increasing, and now all of a sudden, oh my God, we have a problem with men.
Yeah, the red pills.
Maybe men want to hold on to their money, get tired of the runaround. They like stability, and they're afraid of getting Amber Heard.
Amber Turd.
So now the message is going out. Men, the feminists are saying this message, and the trad guys. Men, we have a problem with you. You're not being manly enough. You need to go out and marry one of these women and have children. We need you. The women need you because they're complaining there are no good men. So, men, you need to show up. And the tradcons are saying, man, you need to man up and marry these women. And how much is that of changing male behavior?
I think they've actually succeeded in Streisand affecting this into pushing even more men away. The age of control over information is coming to an end. There is so much information out there that is so easy to get that men can just log in and they can find, I don't know, a Twitter post, a YouTube video, stuffed to the gills with real information. Now, this does beget a whole problem of how to determine, what's real and what's fake, and there's a whole art to that. Not the purpose of this stream, but the information is out there and available to you, and men are finding it. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay, the facts don't matter. But now I'm going to give you a fact.
Yeah.
If you just peruse YouTube and your algorithm or whatever brings up your streams, if you dabble in red pill stuff, you're gonna all of a sudden see tens, hundreds of channels of men talking about men issues and how bad divorce is, how it devastated them, and their dating experiences, and how bad or how low your chances are on the online dating. I mean, it's just exploding the number of male channels out there talking about this stuff. Doesn't matter if it's factually true, but it is factually true. The number of men talking about it is exploding.
Which means that men are coming to a realization that women are not for them. And here's the thing. People often assume that these men, just particularly leftists, these men, they're just drinking this red pill Kool-Aid, and they're getting, red pilled on women or black pilled on women. No. What the men are doing is they're looking at what the red pill creators are saying, then looking around at the women in their lives, and they're going, yeah, it's around me too. You see, they always want to.
I noticed that, like,
yeah.
After this happened, after I got this shit storm I started going through, I just started noticing, like, oh dang, this does happen. I'd watch my friends and be like, oh, that just happened, and that just happened, and I put labels to it that I heard from Red Pill, like, oh wow.
The problem here for the narrativists is that their narrative cannot combat the reality that these men see around them. And so it doesn't, you can say, the red pill's not true, but then they watch it and they watch some retarded woman do exactly what the red pill said she was going to do. And they go, you're telling me it's not true, but I just watched one do it, and the problem with propaganda like this is that eventually it meets reality.
So, Nick, when you're out, you go out to the local eatery or bar or whatever to have a steak, a meal.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there
and you Red Raiders or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sports bar, whatever. And you encounter women. Now, do those women exhibit the traits and behaviors that you hear about in the red pill, or do they exhibit the traits and behaviors that the feminists talk about or the tradcons talk about?
It's not just the ladies there, it's the ladies at the grocery stores, it's the ladies at the church, it's the ladies, I'm going to the courthouse, and I'm listening to stories, and people are coming in and laying charges to people, and I'm just sitting there in the background doing my research. It's all of them.
So it all affirms your perception of what the red pill talks about.
Yeah,
for the most part. No.
Yeah.
Well, so no matter how much propaganda is thrown at you to say it's not this way, it's probably not going to be effective when you see reality around you every day.
How many divorce cases do I have to review when I do my job while listening to them pull their bullcrap temporary restraining orders and file for divorce, and I hear their dumbass friend or lawyer encouraging them to check, if they have any doubt, just check the box if it counts. And the guys coming in and say, man, what did I do? I can't even have my weapon with me anymore because she filed this crap.
Right.
And then they think I'm a lawyer. I'm like, I'm not a lawyer, but this is normal, but go get a lawyer like now.
Yeah. Well, but Nick, even there, you are helping wake men up and point them in the right direction. Okay. And see, men do that. We look at other men who are struggling and we go, and that is a man who has woken up. He has the reality has crashed in on his narrative. Okay. And that is what's happening with the Baskerville solution. You can't stop this because the entire system is designed to produce this outcome.
Now, let me say something. You stupid men thought the Bill of Rights applied to you.
It
And that you had the right to bear arms, which was given to you by God. Silly, man. No, it's not. You have rights are a figment of your imagination. Your privilege to carry a weapon is based on the feelings of a woman. And if your woman, former woman, feels or says she feels afraid, all of a sudden you don't have that right. If that right can be taken away on the whim of a woman, it was never a right in the first place. And it was certainly not given by God. It might originally have been given by the government. So basically, your whole sense of reality is wrong. And I want to talk about women lawyers, but do you want me to go into that right now, Plutarch, or later?
Well, up next. So policy solutions. That's a policy solution that's ongoing. But I would say, for you men out there, do as Nick does. Whenever you see a man in a situation like that, step forward, guide him, wake him up, tell him to get the lawyer, tell him the divorce is on the way, tell him, point him to the red pill content creators. Could be us, could be any of your other favorite ones, whatever. Okay. This is you want to know what to do as Nick does. Okay. There's a policy but what you tell that man is you do not share resources with women. Don't do it. It's a simple policy. And you can say, and then you can get into it later and you say, okay, well, here's what the red pill says. Here's what we teach. Here's why we teach it. You can do all that, but you have to lead with the Baskerville solution. Do not give women your resources. So there's a policy solution. And what's the policy problem? What's the problem we're trying to solve? Feminism. How do you get rid of feminism? Well, you have to make the women want to get rid of it. It's the only way that it goes away is the women have to want to get rid of it.
Plutarch,
This EBT thing, though, is a blessing. Oh my God.
We'll get there.
So,
we'll get there.
I need to explain something. Plutarch said, do not give women your resources. We all know Plutarch is married. He provides for his woman. So, in that way, he is giving her his resources. Okay. Yep, fine. Men are supposed to provide for women and should if she's your woman. But do not put her in control of your resources. Do not give her access to your resources. You provide. It's money that comes from you that's given to her. It's not her going to your resources to provide for herself.
No.
Right?
Well, and notice how I phrased it. Do not provide resources to women. Nick, you hit on something with your outburst here a few seconds ago. Okay. There is providing resources to a woman who has met the standards and continues to meet your standards. Okay. My wife continues to meet the standards, so she gets resources provided to her from me as Steve described. She does not have control of the finances.
But you
She doesn't even
retain
know where they
control.
are. Oh, well, yeah, she
Right.
doesn't. She has no control. She doesn't even know where they are. She might know the
But
name of the bank we use, right? Like, I
But
think
if she
that's
decides to leave you one day, she can lay the charge of financial abuse, right?
correct. She can.
So
That's
be
a
it.
risk. That's
So
a
be it.
risk,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Here's the other thing: children are resources for women, not for men. Women are not resources for men. They are resources for women.
Yep, I know.
Yeah, Nick, I know this is where we start talking about things like EBT and
Or
divorce court
oh,
and
well, this is where I even tried to buy out my ex-wife and get my kids and receive nothing in return.
right,
But
because
no,
you're
they want to use those kids for continual resource, like years and years and years of resources and government benefits.
mhm. A buyout. You know, it was always going to be a bit of a Hail Mary because even if the
Yep.
woman didn't recognize the resource leverage, the lawyers sure fucking did.
Yeah, but at least I tried. That's all I
Hey.
can say.
Hey, exactly. No, like you did the right thing. But it was always going to be a Hail Mary, and I think we even told you
Absolutely.
that.
Oh yeah.
So you know what we're saying is do not give your resources to. For most men, the answer is do not give your resources to women. Was I able to navigate the womandom successfully enough to find one who I could give a select amount of resources to? Yes, but even then, she's still under some pretty, well, Nick, you said it, financially abusive conditions in terms of how a lawyer would frame it. He doesn't think so. He thinks it's great, but that's a marketing problem on the woman's side as far as they're concerned. So, okay, so that policy solution is already in place and is already moving through the culture. What we would advocate here is push harder on it. Push more men, because the only way you can cut any of this off is, well, okay, we were talking about Nick, you were talking about the EBT thing. There's been this dual track. This dual track meltdown on Twitter over EBT. And I, as I said, I thought it was hilarious. Well, here's the deal. If you, as a man, do not get married, which is the easiest way to not give a woman your resources, do not get married. She gets your resources when you decide to buy her a dinner date or a movie. She gets conditional access to your resources. Okay. In those situations, you are protected. There's no legal recourse for her to say, oh, well, he took me on a date once. He owes me half of his stuff. I know, Steve, you want to jump in here, and I know where you want to go with that.
Yeah.
We'll get to you on your lawyers thing. I'm building you up for it here. Okay. For the moment, simply not giving a woman your resources is sufficient. However, you still pay taxes. And as the country has learned, you pay an awful lot of tax. An awful lot of your tax money goes to EBT. EBT is used as one of the primary EBT, SNAP, WIC. WIC is another one that's no one's talked about. Those are programs that are specifically used by women as a safety net for the divorce that they are planning. Nick, I have no doubt that your ex is currently scamming that system for everything she can get out of it.
Okay, let me
Oh,
see
yeah.
this. EBT stands for Electronic Benefit Transfer.
Yeah.
So SNAP benefits and WIC and all that come through EBT. She gets a credit card. Just looks like a Visa. That's where all the benefits come through. So that is the vehicle for transfer. So EBT is kind of an umbrella term that covers all the social benefits that come. And,
Ooh.
I'm not an expert on this. Maybe some heating assistance might be paid directly. I mean,
Shu
there's
pointed out another
Section
one, Steve.
8, which is
TAMF.
subsidized.
TAMF.
Yeah.
That comes through EBT.
Yeah, I mean, but EBT is kind of a collective term that covers a lot of this shit.
Right. So, gentlemen, here's another policy that we can do a social. This is another social policy that we can do. Don't get a high-paying job. Your tax rate, taxes are, we have a regressive tax policy. So you pay, the more you make, the more taxes you pay as a percentage of your income. Ask me how I know. I worked in big tech, making a big tech salary. Anyway, one of the methods you can use to give, you have to pay your taxes, otherwise the government comes and, particularly as a man, the government comes and uses significant force on you if you don't. But you can reduce the amount of taxes you pay into the system that funds these various EBT-based programs by just making enough for you to live comfortably. And I can hear the red pill MMG hypergamy insurance maxers having a meltdown over this because they want that lifestyle. They want to attract the chicks. And look, great dude. If you can do it, fine, whatever. But again, these are policies for the average man, not the hypergamy insurance maxer who's going to, run through 1 billion insta whores on yachts. Like, yeah, got it, dude. You're the top 0.001% of society. Yeah. Go put your flex pictures up. That red pillar guy has no more understanding of the average man than the left does. Okay, sorry, but
that's just pickup artist. Red
yeah,
he's not a average.
I know a lot of PUA guys, not personally, but on Twitter, they don't make that much either. And you know what? They know it and they don't care.
No, look, there's going to be guys out there like that. And to which I have to say, look, you know what? You do you, boo-boo. I'm not going to stop you.
Right.
But for most men out there, don't delude yourself into thinking you're going to be that guy. You're not. Okay.
Gotta make bank, bro. Boats and hoes.
Boats and hoes. Okay. For the average man.
Catalina wine mixer, baby.
Yes. For the average man, it's simpler to just say, I will make no more than is necessary for me to live a modestly comfortable life. You see those pictures of those dudes, they've got a mattress, on a mattress on the floor and a TV stacked on top of a couple of milk crates. Oh, milk crates might be dating myself a little bit here, and an Xbox or a PlayStation, and that's like it. I know a lot of guys who could be happy with that. Okay.
Yep.
Maybe you want a little more, but go ahead, Steve.
Men are already doing that.
Yes, they are. But
that's not how I had to start over, except I had a ton of books, but that was it.
So one of the guys, he used to be my boss,
my
supervisor in the trucking industry. He had a degree in architecture. Then he never did architect work, but he was wicked smart. He ran a restaurant and then got divorced and lost the restaurant. And then He ran a Applebee's successfully. Well, he had his own restaurant too. And then he became a trucking supervisor. Well, then he started a restaurant and he was let go from there and blah, 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 whatever. So anyway, he comes back and he now took a truck driver job at the company I'm working with. So now he's lower in seniority than I am. So, he rode with me during the training phase, even though he knew what he was doing. So he was talking about, we were talking about things. And he says, yeah, he was thinking of going to med school. The guy was certainly smart enough to do that. And he had an uncle who was a doctor. And this was probably 20 years ago. And his uncle says, oh, hell no. Do not become a doctor. This profession is going to shit. You won't enjoy it. Do not do that. So he didn't. My point of this story is men are already and have been progressively deciding not to go for those high-paying jobs because it's just not worth it.
Well,
Now, can I
Steve,
go into my lawyer point?
Well, yes. I just, as a policy thing, what the pushback you're going to hear is going to be primarily from the right. Okay. The left actually doesn't mind if men economically remove themselves because the left is frankly too stupid to understand the second order effects of men doing so. So they're broadly going to be okay with it, but the right, and particularly the Christian right, is going to have an absolute meltdown. Because remember, and we've talked about this many, many, many times, the church has promised its legions of women that there is a good, rich beta husband waiting for them at that church.
And women only
I need a more cat.
want to
I
marry
need a more
up.
cat series.
Yes.
Women only want to marry up, and the men are not doing it to outperform the women. Women are all for equality, except for the man they want to marry, which has to be better, earning more, whatever. And then she wants to be equal with the man that's better than her.
Hey, but the other guy was getting the milk for free, but then she supposedly found Jesus, right?
Yep. So
go ahead.
I was just going to say, a part of this is I want to point out is when you're advocating this stuff, particularly our audience is going to be very right leaning. Understand that the people that you talk to are going to view what you say, particularly the ones who are still plugged into the matrix. They're still on the blue pill. They're going to look at what you're saying with utter, just horror and shock and horror. Like, how could you possibly say that? It is my Christian duty to provide my wife and kids the very best life possible. And when
the Bible doesn't say that.
It doesn't. I was actually going to say that. Nowhere does the Bible say that. And she's going to take half your shit and your kids when she goes. And she will go.
And you set the bar so damn high that you are fucked. Because in our current world, you're likely to lose that high-paying job at some point. But since they're capable of that, they're going to say, go out and find another one. You get no reprieve. So no, do not set the bar too damn high because you will be screwed. Because it happened to me. I paid child support on imputed income that I couldn't go out and earn because, you know what? It was a good period in my life. And then, when crude oil prices are $140 a barrel and everybody is scrambling for people and you go independent, you can make a lot of money. And then when they come back down, you can't make a lot of money.
True.
But does a female judge understand that? What do you think?
No.
I don't even think
No.
they care. No, they don't. I would say understand. They may or may not understand. They definitely do not care. So if you're married, setting the bar that high is of no benefit to you. And if you're thinking about getting married, setting the bar is of no benefit to you. I mean, we can even talk about the kind of women you'll attract setting the bar that high. Gold diggers. Okay, there, I said it. Okay. Fine. It is not, again, the system has set itself up for men to say, nah, I'm just going to work my Burger King job. I'll become a lead manager at a Burger King. I'll make 50, 60 a year. I'll live in an empty apartment with not much, but I will be able to afford my internet, afford my cell phone. I'll be able to afford to go out and have beers with the guys once in a while.
There's an alternative. You can go into the
Yeah.
trades, get a union job, like I have, truck driver. I make okay. I do just fine.
Mhm.
And I'm up there in seniority. If I chose to work 55 hours a week, I could make six figures.
Steve, do you work 55 hours a week?
No, I work 42 to 45 hours a week.
But Steve, you need to make more money because you got to get the boat for the hose.
No, you see? Okay, so you can do it. If you're smart enough, you can do the math. You can say, yeah, Steve's doing okay. And, okay, so you can choose to do what I'm doing. You could be an electrician. You could go into HVAC or refrigeration or any of the trades and make pretty damn good money. Fine, do that. The benefit of that is it's a stable job, especially if it's union. And you're not, and if you're a steel worker or an auto worker, not so great because those industries cycle. But if you're in, certain areas, yes, you can earn a decent salary and stable. You never earn a lot of money, but you'll be stable. Okay, that's fine because you're not setting the bar too damn high that you can't go find something and make the same amount of money elsewhere. So don't strive to get to the top for the sake of a woman. That's just stupid.
Now, here's the thing. I'm not telling men who want to go out and build something to not go out and build it. And in fact, I would encourage men to build things. But you don't have to share the benefits of that exercise with the state, who's just going to turn around and share it with women. For example, as you guys know, I worked big tech, which means I'm in and around and using a lot of open source software to do my job. Those are men who built something literally for free. Why did they build it? Because they enjoyed the process of building it. And that is if you want to do a pro-social good, don't go chase what the church says. And you've got to make that money and wife up those church whores. No, go build something that other people in society can use. I mentioned that, okay, I rag, we rag on EBT a lot. I have been on unemployment a couple times in my life. During that time, I would go and I would work on open source type projects. Why? Because yes, I have to do the, rigmarole of looking for a job, and eventually I found one, right? I was always looking, but I had that time off and I used it to build things. I used it to help other people. Okay. As a man, you can do that. And that is a non-benefit to the state, but it is a benefit to your fellow man. So, building is good, but you don't have to share everything you build with the state via income and taxes. That is it's prosperity gospel for one, but it is that's what the feminist church wants you to do because they have a woman problem. I was just on Twitter today. I saw another one. This woman complaining about all these women in her church, and they just can't seem to find any good men in the church. And you find out that it's a Baptist mega church.
So now this EBT, I'm going to tell you, in the transition, after I stopped being an engineer and was let go of my job, I was unemployed for a year. Okay, my money ran out, the unemployment ran out. I applied for EBT. I had a family to support. We got EBT for 6 months. I also got some government assistance to be trained as a truck driver. Okay. You know what? I had paid in to the system for 25 years. Fine. I'm going to make use of those benefits. So for those 6 months, that's what I did. Then I went out and got a job. Okay. Benefits are done. I needed that. That's that soft landing. That's the assistance that you need, that should be there when you need it. It's a transition. But, okay, so we're not against people. I'm not against people making use of that. But it's not a place to stay. It's a cushion. And now get your shit together and move on.
Well, that's what EBT used to be. But again, and I have stats on this. It has turned into a perpetual welfare program. And that's just, here's the thing. Even if, let's, the economy is going to blow apart next year, guys. Sorry. Okay, there's going to be a lot of people out of work, but even if I was forced to use it, I wouldn't be allowed to use it perpetually because I'm a white man married to a white woman. I don't have the leverage to do it. So in the EBT system, there's tons of skims and scams and frauds and abuses and all of that. Honestly, I think at this point, it's going to be easier to just demolish the EBT system and do nothing with it and replace it with nothing. Okay, there's another policy thing. Demolish them.
Oh,
okay.
I got a story for you. So, I was a pastor in South Dakota, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a bunch of kids. Guess who decided to sign up for all the Social Security benefits while I was a pastor? And I told her not to.
Could that be your ex-wife?
Yeah. I was like, why? I'm like, we're able to do okay without these government handouts. And
Oh, I mean social services, not Social Security. What did she sign up for?
Like WIC or something, women, infant,
WIC.
children, some other crap.
Okay, government.
No.
Government. She signed up for government assistance while you were a pastor.
And I asked her not to, but she did it anyways.
Okay.
We had no need for it. We could make do. We didn't make a whole lot of money with a bunch of kids, but we made do. But no, all her buddy friends said, well, you can get some free stuff if you sign up for this. Then you can go in the long line with the food drives with like these big Hummers and Suburbans and all these people that don't need this free food that get the free food anyways.
Well, Nick, then she won't have to spend as much of your money buying food. So then she can use your money to go get her nails done.
Bingo. No, that's what it was. That's all this was. It was a way to increase. She probably thought she was doing you a service, that she was helping you by doing this. She probably actually did. Did you say something, Nick?
Yeah, maybe, but still, just like.
Well, in the mathematics, she's not wrong. you now
True.
had more to spend.
Correct.
So
Of course, she was just helping you provide for her in the manner she deserved as a woman.
Nick, Steve. Well, here's the other thing that she did, and this is the dark side of it. Nick, she was getting ready to leave you.
Okay, now I'm just going to jump in here.
Go for
Guys, we've talked about why it's probably better not to get married. And or at least withhold your resources from women. And how men are not signing up and going for the gusto and the high paying jobs. Now, let me tell you why this might be important in the future. Currently, this is, I Googled or Bing searched female lawyer statistics. And I'm just going to read these. 39.5% of U.S. attorneys are women. And it's up from 36% in 2014. Women first outnumbered men at ABA accredited law schools in 2016. And now, by 2023, represent 56% of law students. So women now comprise a majority of law firm associates. Women account for 56. Okay, I already said that. Women represent 55% of the lawyers at Department of Homeland Security. Women represent 60% or more of the attorney workforce in the departments such as education, health and human services, and labor. Okay, health and human services. Do they do some of these social assistance programs? Oh, I think so. So, going through divorce, I knew back 15 years ago, Hennepin County, Minneapolis, I had 3 attorneys or 3 judges that I went before in my first divorce. All of them were women. All of the women in family court, which was it was a big county, so family court was separate. They were all female. So right now, I heard that like a third of the judges in the U.S. are female. But I just told you how many women are graduating, and they're the predominant number of attorneys. What is the future going to be for judges? And let me tell you this, women decide things differently. And it's not primarily based on reason. It's based on emotions and enforcing what they think the justice should be. So for you guys who are lining up to get married, I wish you luck, because you better have chosen a good woman. But a lot of you didn't. And she's going to divorce you. And since so many other men are not going down that path, you are in for, you're going to be blamed for everything. And with more women in charge of our legal system, it's going to even get more skewed against men. It's going to be horrendous. Because in general, something I've learned or observed, when women make decisions, it always leads to destruction. Men make decisions, leads to construction, or if they screw up, they got to fix it. Women make decisions, and oh man, somebody's gonna It's bad. It's just bad. So our legal system, you think we have rule of law now? We don't. It's only going to get worse. So do not put yourselves at the mercy of our legal system. Stay far away, which means stay away from any marriage contracts. I'm sorry. I mean, I am pro historical marriage. I'm adamantly against modern marriage. Because modern marriage is not marriage. It's a vagrant concubinage.
Steve, I used a word in the pre-show, and I think I'll use it here. It's as far as I know, it's not a banned word on Twitter or YouTube, and we'll find out. There are going to be men, particularly sadly on the Christian right, who are legally martyred to learn this lesson.
Hey, Steve and I were one of them. Each one of them.
There's going to be a lot more.
Yeah.
Yes, there
Yep.
will be.
Because the solution that the church right has come up with is just pray harder, just Christian harder, and that will stop you from going up against the divorce court. Bad news, my brothers in Christ. That it will not stop you from going up against the divorce court. And as more and more women become lawyers and more women become judges, there will be fewer and fewer men out there to defend you in said divorce court.
And it won't matter. It won't matter. Because as more and more women became involved in the church, even though men were still kind of in charge, they had to accommodate the feelings of the women. And so they kind of had to waffle and go lenient and then not be strict law, reason, fact, because it might hurt someone's feelings. So it does not matter if you still find a man to represent you. The system has become feminized, just as the churches became feminized.
Yep. So Steve is absolutely right. Don't do marriage. Just don't do it. And because when I say martyred, as one of the side effects, and Steve and I were discussing this before the show, one of the side effects of the Baskerville solution will be that fewer and fewer men get married. And if men take it the step further that we say, don't even go get, lavish jobs with high incomes because you have to give more of it to the state. If men pull back from that, the system itself is going to become more and more starved for resources. What that means then is the women, being irrational retards, will not turn around and say, hey, wait, we are starving the system that we're trying to use. No, they will try and extract more and more resources from the martyrs. Okay?
They will extract more and more resources from fewer and fewer men.
Yes. So what we're saying is, don't be that last man standing, by his principles of good and godly church marriage. Don't be that guy. I mean, if you really want to take that bullet, go for it, I guess. But
I did. The courts don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care.
More good. You can do more good in the world as an electrician than you can as an attorney.
Amen. Absolutely. So, okay. So, now I'm sure you guys have, you're wondering, well, why aren't you guys talking tonight about repeal the 19th and repeal no fault divorce and da. Okay.
Fine.
Good. Fine and good. Those things will not happen until the women demand that they happen.
And it will happen that way because the women will take control of the legal system and impose their will on it, and it will lead to abject destruction. And at that point, they'll be crying to the men to fix it. And
Right.
there'll be so many women who, okay, EBT may not be available. There'll be hungry women who, when women get hungry, they look to the state or they look to men. And when there is no other option, and women have just totally screwed everything up, then they'll look to the men and okay, we're going to be at a lot lower standard of living, and it's going to
Oh
be
man,
ugly.
very.
Ugly. Okay, there's a lot of violence that happens between here and there.
Yep.
But at some point, the women will be begging the men to just make it, just
Make it
fix
stop. Make it stop.
I mean, I'll do anything. I'll be your slave. I'll listen to you. Just fix it, and I want to eat.
Okay.
I mean, Isaiah 3 turns into Isaiah 4.
Absolutely, Nick.
Yeah,
Okay, Smoking Patriot. I think there needs to be a discussion of a workaround if a guy does meet a girl and they want to spend their lives with each other but not get legally married. We've talked about that before. There are ways to do it. You have to move to a non-common law state, and you can get married in a church ceremony, but you still have to be careful because some states will use that as evidence of actual marriage anyway. And then like
then if
there's
you have kids,
right, and if you have kids, right, so
Yeah.
like you can't have kids. We will get into
And
the kids thing here in a bit, but
no joint bank accounts.
yeah, no, like there's this long list.
No joint home ownership. No joint car ownership.
And
nothing joint.
And so,
under the legal system.
So Patriot, what I would say is that yes, there are workarounds, but for the vast majority of men, they're not going to be able to pull them off. These are very technically complex things that require a lot of diligence. And like we'll have to talk about kids.
Won't get it.
Won't get it. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Normal men won't
illustrate this. Our deceased friend Thor, extremely smart guy. He was talking about trusts and how a man can put all his money in a trust. And in the case of a divorce, she can't get it because it's in a trust. How many men are going to do that or have the capability of understanding or the will or
the
it's
resources?
Just not going to happen. Resources, yeah.
Trusts aren't
cheap. Or the need.
Right. So it's like, yes, there are ways to do it. The Red Pill has talked about it. Thor's talked about it. Others in the Red Pill have talked about it. We've talked about various strategies you can use. It's just that the number of men who are going to be able to pull that off is vanishingly small. And we're trying to say, okay, what is the general policy that men should follow? Right? The general policy is don't get married. The general policy is don't give women your resources. I've actually been writing a list as we talk through these. I did not send the guys a list because I did not want to limit the discussion tonight. And so, but these policies are for the average man. They are for the guy who just got woken up. He's in his 40s. The kids are, headed towards moving out and she wants to go get new dick. Okay. That's what we're trying. We're trying to stave off those guys, just the normal guys. Patriot, you probably could set this up. You probably could do this. I have done something like that with Elena. Why? Because in part because in order to import her to the United States, I had to get the state marriage license. And so certain precautions were taken ahead of time. Okay. Like that's just how it had to be done. But for most men, I think we need to be providing simple answers. And then if you work with them over time and you discover, hey, you know, maybe this guy might be smart enough to handle this, might be technically savvy enough to pull this off, you can walk him through it. Okay. But like it needs to be an exception to the policy, you know, and that's how I would describe it. It's an exception to the policy. So
But everybody wants to think they're the exception.
yeah.
That's the problem.
And frankly, we would recommend that for any man, particularly if you're in the middle of a divorce, you are not the exception right then and there. You are so emotionally Sorry. Well, I was just saying you're so emotionally overloaded and drained that you, even if you are technically capable of it at some point in the future, you are definitely not right now.
And when you're going through a divorce, common sense, reason, law, none of it matters.
Yep.
Because you are going to get an education in nothing that you believed is real. There is no fairness.
Mm-hmm.
It's all crap. It's all bullshit. And you might as well just bend over. Well, pull down your pants first. Bend over and spread your cheeks.
Right. So, you know, we're okay. Here it goes. Children. Oh dear God. This topic, more than anything else, lights the internet and Twitter on fire. So let's do it. Most of I said something, and I was setting you guys up for this, but I said something early on in the stream, and what I said is economics is downstream of culture. No, sorry, economics is downstream of policy, which is downstream of culture. Okay, so when it comes to children, everybody wants to talk economic policy. Oh, just give them this tax break. Just give them this benefit. By the way, if you think that policy works in the United States, let's talk about TAMP, WIC, SNAP. Okay. Yeah, there are people with 8 children and 8 baby daddies. There was one video I was watching where this woman, well, if I don't get my ABT, how am I going to take care of my 8 children? I got 8 baby daddies and they're all deadbeats, basically. She didn't use the deadbeats word, but I don't get anything from them. Because those men are already doing what we're saying. They either have no job or they've got such a small job that they can't contribute anything.
It's always been that way. Always. If a guy doesn't make much money and he's kind of, a low performer, they never go after him. They always go after the middle class guys that make money, the smart guys who have the ability. My second ex-wife, her ex-husband was supposed to be sending in $100 for the 2 kids every month. He never sent it in. They never went after him. Never any problems. He didn't have any problems.
Because he's not worth anything.
Did they go after me as an engineer making 100, high, 80, 90, 100, 110 grand a year? Did they go after me? Hell yes.
Yep.
So it's already happening.
Right. So why did we say don't, why do we say don't give women your resources? Well, don't give them children. We include children in resources because from the vantage point of the state they are. And so, okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. I have been involved, as some of you know, in many battles on Twitter over this exact topic. And that topic is natalism, birth rates, demographics. Okay. Now, most people think that because of the things that I say on Twitter and this channel, that I must hate children, or that I hear this one all the time, that I'm a Malthusian, that I just, I believe that we need to cut the planet's population down to a more manageable size. I am none of those things. So I actually do want more children, but I'm also a realist. And I've studied history. I've looked at historical data. I don't think I've showed this chart on the channel here. Let me pull it up for you guys. This is infant mortality adjusted TFR. Okay, come on. You guys knew that I was going to pull a chart up at some point, right? I actually,
Yep.
because no one, as far as I know, no one has ever done this. I took 2 data sets from Statista and I put them together. And so it was infant mortality, which they defined as a child who under the age of 5 who dies before they reach the age of 5. That is infant mortality for the purpose of this data set. Okay. And then the other is, of course, just the total fertility rate. It just so happened that both data sets went back to 1800. 1800 is, I do believe, because of the war, the very first census that we had, the war, and then there was they were trying to build the government. So in 1790, they didn't have a census set up, but they did a census for 1800, and then they started collecting this kind of data. So most of you have probably seen the chart that cuts off somewhere around, let's draw a line up here, so around 1950. So here, so that would be, so that's
Excuse me.
two bars before the peak here. Yeah, I tried to make it as visible as possible, but it wasn't easy. So it's 2 bars before the peak. That's where most charts cut it off. Most people do not know that TFR I've got the raw data sitting right here. I included that specifically for you guys. TFR in the adjusted TFR in 1920 was 2.4, or 1930 was 2.4. And look at what was happening to TFR from 1800. The Civil War doesn't even show up on here. Let that sink in. A massive, just culturally and economically, just tectonic shift in everything doesn't even show up here. Okay. Andrew, I see you. If you want the raw data and the Excel spreadsheet, reach out to me on Twitter and I'll send it to you.
Hey, I'm a good Catholic. I thought the world went to shit after Vatican II, which was 1965.
Well, Sorry.
Okay, it kind of went down there, but that was from a peak era. Yeah, okay, for you Catholics out there, you can't say that everything is due to Vatican II, or for you other Christians or secularists, oh, it's just modernity. It's just lower, loss of morality. No, we've been declining for a long, long time. Okay, this is just one aspect, so you can't draw any conclusions from that. But at the same time, you can't pin this on one thing.
No.
Well, maybe you can. Have women
Well,
been advocating for independence, more equality? Has this been a long-term thing, or did it just happen once women got the right to vote?
well, the women got the right to vote in 1920, ironically, and you can see from the data that they got the right to vote in 1920, and by 1935, so let's see, 1920, infant mortality was adjusted mortality was 2.7, and it hits a bottom at 2.0 in 1935. Okay, so that's only 15 years after getting the right to vote. So no, I don't think that was it.
If there is any impact there, it's a general trend. You cannot take it down to a granular scale and draw a causation.
Right. So, well, here's the other thing. Look at the trend starting all the way in 1980. It's down and it accelerates into 1920. Here's the thing. I don't have the data. I have been trying to find it. I've seen it before, but it is almost impossible to actually get on my budget. There are data sets that show fertility rate by location. Okay, and this is what I want to say something here. There has been no formal studies done on why fertility rates have fallen for the past 225 years. Nobody has asked the question why and gone off and tried to do what I would call an open-ended scientific study, where you're not entering with a hypothesis and trying to prove that hypothesis, but you're doing a study of looking at all the data you can find and trying to figure out, okay, what drove this? However, there has been studies done on fertility by location. And what we do know from those is that the fertility rates get higher the more rural you go. Cities have low fertility rates, rural areas have high fertility rates. The reason that it doesn't show up in the aggregate fertility rate, which you can see here in the data, is that there are so few rural people that even if they're pushing out 3, 4, or 5 kids, they simply are not enough of them to match the lack of kids by the millions in cities. But the demographers, even as far back as 1920, will tell you that. So yes, Andrew, they will tell you, and I said this on a prior stream, it looks like it tracks with urbanization and industrialization. Okay. As best we can tell, fertility rate is a function of for lack of a better term, is a function of the number of people in close proximity to you. That can be urbanization, pushing more people into dense cities as opposed to outlying areas. But that can also be immigration. So, and everyone's going to be like, but I have to deal with something before I get into that. Everyone's going to be Well, but what the hell is this giant bump in the data? There's this mountain. Okay.
Right.
Why is that there? Well, there is no one good answer. A piece of the answer is actually this chart. This is from an NBER study. It was done back in the like 1997 or somewhere. It was somewhere in the mid 90s. Age of first marriage in the United States, U.S. whites. Now, why don't you include others? Because up until 1980, U.S. was mostly white. Sorry, guys. That's just, for you guys out there, I'm not trying to be racist. It's just like the United States was like 80 to 90% white up until this point. And you see that in 1940 to 1960, average age of first marriage falls off a cliff. It's easier to have kids when you're young. We know that. Basic biology. We had just fought a war, and people wanted to have kids. They wanted to forget the war, basically. That's part of it, but that's not all of it. And the reason I say that's not all of it is, look at where the climb actually starts. It starts in 1935. This is pre-war. This is that chart can't be all of it. It's a little piece of it, but it can't be all of it. In the 1930s, sometime between I want to say it was 1932, but it's between the data points on this chart. The United States ends immigration. Basically, to come to the United States, you have to be, it's a very rare thing at this point. Yeah, there's some who can, but we basically shut it down in the early 1930s as a result of the Great Depression. We simply had too many unemployed people here. We did not need, and we did not have use for even more people coming here. Now, yes, there was a large reversal in migration happening anyway, because there were no jobs here anymore. So the economic migrants just stopped coming. But what's interesting about this data is from 1935 to 1965, or to 1960. So 35 to 60, that's 25 years. Chart just goes up and up and up and up. Does anyone know what happened in here? I'm going to look it up. But does anyone know what year the Hart-Celler Act was passed?
No.
The Hart-Celler Act, officially known as the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965.
Oh, if you had said that, Immigration Act, I would have guessed 65. But whatever.
Right. Hart-Celler is shorthand that those of us in the immigration fight use, because we know. So it abolished what had been known as the national origins formula, which had been immigration policy since the late 1920s, and replaced it with the immigration policy we now have today. So I'm trying to paint a little bit of a picture here. Okay. We know for a fact that urbanization and putting lots and lots of people in a very concentrated area has negative effects on fertility. There have been no studies done as to why that is. I think what happened with the early demographers back in the 1920s is they looked at it and said, well, it's urbanization. That's it. And they just kind of left it at that. Because it does track. This chart up until 1920s tracks perfectly with the urbanization of the United States, which is why the Civil War doesn't show up on here.
Can I point out something else?
Sure.
That a reason that people cling to that just doesn't quite make sense. Up until 1930. All Christian churches, Protestant, Catholic, every Christian church was against contraception. Every single one. It was a sin. 1930, the Lambeth Conference, which is an Episcopalian thing, Anglican. They first allowed contraception and said, no, it might not be a sin under these circumstances. So contraception started being permissible. Wait, birth rates went up after that? Gee, who'd have thought that? Then we have two other things. When contraception was actually against the law or distribution in the United States, and I think it was Griswold versus Connecticut.
Yep, that's the one.
And do you have the date of that? Wasn't it in the 60s, 65, something like that?
65.
Okay. And, that's, Vatican II happened at that time. And, when was the pill invented or become common? Around 1960.
It was invented in the 60s, but I looked up the adoption rates, and it did not get adopted heavily until the late 70s.
Okay. But even so, contraception was actually from 1930 through 1960. It was a growing thing, growing in popularity.
Yes, sir.
Then it became easier and easier and more prevalent, but yet for a few years, the birth rate actually went up after contraception. And, Roe v. Wade, 1973, which kind of legalized abortion. Not really. It's more nuanced than that. But abortion became popular, but birth rate went up. So, sorry, you Christians. You cannot blame this, or Catholics, predominantly Catholics. You can't blame this collapse on contraception or abortion.
Steve, I have a question for you. When was the first latex condom produced?
I have no idea.
40s?
I'd think it's 100 years old.
1920.
Okay.
Yeah.
Contraception has been around for a very long time. It does not appear to affect birth rates in any meaningful way, one way or the other. Yeah, Andrew. Yeah, I know which song you're talking about. 1975. Yeah, exactly. The pill really didn't gain mainstream acceptance until until some of its other side effects were well known. It makes women's skin clearer. It had, and people understood. Oh, hey, wait! It actually reduces the pain of the menstrual cycle. It wasn't. So it took a while for it to gain acceptance. So it's like, okay, yeah, it was made in the night.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
but
I will absolutely say there are a lot of unintended consequences of the pill.
Sure.
That we're experiencing. Some of them are really drastic.
Absolutely.
But fertility or total fertility rate does not really seem to be the worst of the consequences of the birth control pill.
The lowest data point I have is 1.74 in 1980. And this is the height of the pill. The pill is coming into force everywhere, and then it ticks up again. The pill gets cheaper from 1980 to 2000, which is the 4-bar upswing there. The pill's getting cheaper and easier this whole time, and that's that upswing. Sometimes data tells us things we don't want to hear. But if you want good policy, you must have good data. And so if we can say that the pill is not the cause, then we must look for another cause, because we cannot direct a policy until we have a cause to correct. Urbanization appears to be the cause of the declining birth rate. We do not understand the mechanism because no studies have done. If you are an academic or connected with an academic department, I would urge you, as a matter of national security, to go out and do some research and study, see if you can figure out what's going on. Okay? Because low birth rates are a national security issue. I will die on that hill. But one thing, remember, again, I said economics is downstream of policy, which is downstream of culture. What this data is saying is that, and this is where I always get in trouble with the Malthusians, there are too many people in the United States right now for the government and economic systems that we have. That's the caveat that you have to place on it. See, people always want to clip where they always clip and they say, oh, well, he said that, the United States has too many people. No, it's too many people for the economic and political systems that we currently have. So there's one of two things you can do to get rid of it. You can try to come up with a brand new economic and political model. And if anyone says communism, shoot them, because that's been tried ad infinitum and fails every single time it's tried. So I'm talking about brand new, never been tried before political or economic system. Or you can do the thing that the data says worked in the past. We shut off immigration in the 1930s, and all of a sudden there's a massive explosion in births. We reopen the economic system, or we reopen the immigration system when we didn't need to. That's the other thing that this data says. We did not need to reopen the immigration system. We were backfilling what we needed just fine on our own. But we reopened it anyway. That's 1965, I do believe, is Johnson, if I recall correctly. I'm actually looking it up now because I do believe that was Johnson. Yes, signed into law by Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon B. Johnson, by the way, has done,
among other things.
Yeah, I was going to say, Lyndon B. Johnson is probably the single worst president in U.S. history in terms of the damage he has done that has echoed throughout the history of the United States. I cannot begin to describe all the various ways this man fucked us. This is just another one of them. We were doing just fine. We were having a renaissance of babies and all of that. And at the height of it, he turns back on the immigration and stuffs our society full of people. And then the baby making rate falls off a cliff. Yeah, exactly. Shoo. Yeah, the Great Society, my ass. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Nick, you may know the answer to this. Didn't Lyndon B. Johnson run afoul of a bunch of Christian groups and implement laws that curtailed churches or pastors or priests from making political statements? Wasn't there a change?
There was. I don't know if he's the one, though, right off the top of my head.
I think he was, because there were some Christian leaders or Christian people, pastors, who he didn't want speaking against him, so he imposed some limits. I think I'm right.
I don't know that little tidbit of history well enough to speak on it, but I do know that Lyndon Johnson is the author of pretty much all of our pain. Yeah. No, Andrew, you're right. Johnson could only take those steps because the paths already began under FDR and Wilson. That is absolutely true. Social Security was supposed to be a temporary program that expired. Johnson was the one who made it permanent. Now, the interesting thing about every one of these three presidents is they were all liberal Democrats. The reason I say go ahead.
Who started the war on poverty?
Wasn't that FDR or was that Wilson? Or was it Johnson? I think it was Johnson, actually. No,
I think
Johnson.
It was Johnson.
Yeah,
That's
that
when
was
the
Johnson.
term came up. Okay, there were social programs part of it, but the war on poverty.
The war on, the term is Johnson.
Yep.
All of the Civil Rights Act, Johnson. So yes, FDR and Wilson set him up, and without them, yes, he wouldn't have been able to do what he did. But his willingness to do what he did and the glee with which he did it and the enthusiasm that he took to his work and the, as Steve was pointing out, the viciousness that he took to this work. I think that's what makes him head and shoulders above FDR and Wilson in terms of damage done. So I find it interesting that when you just look at 1950 charts, so charts that start in 1950, you get kind of a distorted view of the world. And I've explained before that 1950s was, I'll explain it really quickly. 1950 was the first post-war census. The people who won the war with logistics, and logistics requires high quality data. So all those people come back from the war having learned the lesson that in order to do anything, you need high quality data. And so they set about in government trying to build high quality data systems. And they do. Most data sets that I have access to go from 5 years so they go from every 5 years to every 1 year in the data set. There's a discontinuity there. Okay. That discontinuity is because the government said we need the best quality data we can get, and they went out and they got it. And so what most researchers will do is they will only go back to 1950 because, well, that's the high quality data. That's where the good data is. That pre-1950s data, it's not very good. But here's the thing about something like TFR. Your data can be noisy and you can still get a good number out of it. Like, I know from researching my own family tree that the infant mortality rate is expressed in people per thousand. That's a per capita unit. And so if you actually look on this chart, you'll see the mortality is expressed in hundreds in 1980. That is a 46% mortality rate of children under the age of 5. Half of children under the age of 5 died. And if I go back and I look in my own family tree, sure enough, half of all children died. I have an aunt who got really into this, and she put together a whole thing for the whole family, and it was interesting, but you can see it in the data right here. Okay. That is huge. It means that women on average were pumping out 7 kids. That's the average. There were women who were doing twice that, 14 children.
Yeah.
Okay. But when you adjust it But when you adjust the total fertility rate for mortality, a more useful picture appears. We would have been just fine if we had not turned immigration on. We probably wouldn't have stayed at the 3.5. We probably would have come back down to about we probably would have drifted back down to about somewhere between 2.5 and 3, but we would have stayed above replacement because the country wasn't full. There weren't too many people in it. Okay.
What? Next thing you're going to be saying is we'd be fine and we'd still have civilization if it weren't for women in the workforce.
I looked for that chart and I couldn't find it, but the answer is yes. We did just fine without women in the workforce for, I don't know, all of human history. It's unnecessary. Now,
well, okay, there's always been a certain amount of women in the workforce, a nominal amount.
It's less than 5%, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, we're not saying 0. And we're not saying women were restricted from the workforce. No, they weren't. They were always there doing certain things. And there were certain very influential women in academic type things. There always have been. But in general, women weren't needed in the workforce to keep civilization going.
Oh, that's the key part of your question that you asked is, are women in the workforce necessary for civilization? Absolutely not. Civilization got to where it is today entirely without women in the workforce being a normal thing. Here's the thing. The other thing about this chart, 1930 to 1965, you have increasing number of women in the workforce. Now that really picks up in the late 50s, early 60s, but okay. So people want to blame this crash on that. Well, no, not really. Because the dates that align best, I mean, it's kind of hysterical how well they line up. The dates that line best for the crash is immigration. Like, I absolutely am a pro-natalist, but the idea that you can get a TFR above 2 while you're importing hundreds of thousands, or while you're importing a certain, a noticeable percentage of your population every year, that is, it has to be some sort of, and I think Homath has talked about this quite a bit, and I think he's right. Women have this. I can't say that word on YouTube. Darn it! There's so many things that I can say on Twitter that I can't say on YouTube. Women have this. They have this desperate desire to protect baby, and when you don't have babies, baby is anybody screaming in pain. Actually, no. Even when you do have babies, women desire to protect babies, and babies are humans that are screaming, and so women have largely voted for immigration. It's a little less prevalent in the United States, but if you want an example of this, go look at Europe. The women vote for mass immigration every single fucking time. Okay. Europe is getting run over, right? Yeah. Europe is getting run over right now under immigrants, and they are failing. Their systems are failing under the strain of that immigration. And their birth rates make ours look fantastic. Okay. Hungary's birth rate, everyone loves to bring up Hungary. We've dealt with Hungary before. We have a whole live stream on it. You can go back and watch where I dive into it. Hungary has the most pronatal economic policy on the planet. We're talking $250,000 over it's like the first, I'm just going to say the first 18 years of the kid's life, $250,000 per kid with an unlimited number of kids. You get $250,000 per kid you have, period, end of discussion. And that's not counting the other benefits. There's other benefits on the side too. Hungary hasn't had a birth rate above replacement rate since the 90s. Orban has thrown money at this problem unlike any other country on the planet. And there have been countries who've tried. Japan has thrown gobs of money at it. South Korea just last year decided they were going to throw like 700 billion US at it. Everyone is, Russia has thrown hundreds of billions of dollars at it. Everybody has tried economics. The one thing I can say with absolute certainty is that this is not an economic problem.
It's almost like women don't respond to future economic benefit. They just do what they want to do in the moment.
Steve, do you know how hard it is to get men to respond to future economic benefit? And
Yes,
we're expecting.
In this case, we're trying to influence women to have babies.
Right. What I'm saying
because
is
we're going to pay them benefits in the future.
Well, here's the thing. And people, the EBT thing, but these women have 8 kids, or use an EBT and they have 8 kids. Yeah, they have 8 kids. Does anybody here believe that those kids are going to grow up to be future astronauts and architects and engineers?
No. But how many women are having 8 kids?
Oh, very few.
Even though the incentive might be there, they're still not doing it.
Well, here's the thing. If the economic incentive was enough, the birth rate would be higher than it is. The data says that, yeah, there are women with 8 kids out there. Gentlemen, it is rare. Most people with EBT are much less than that. 2 to 3 is still pretty common. Even 1, because you can get full EBT with WIC and TAMF and SNAP. It's all on the basis of how many. So it's like a multiplier for how many children you have. So you can get more just by adding kids to the mix, but most people don't have that many kids. They just don't. Otherwise, the data would look differently than it does. And it's the same thing that I said earlier about the rural urban birth rates. Yeah, rural people of any race or creed. I say that to include your because you're Christians and Hindus and what they're all having 3 to 5 kids out in the rural area, regardless of race or creed. The birth rates in the cities are under 1. Part of the reason South Korea is having such a big problem is South Korea is a city with a country attached to it. Okay, like that's just there's nowhere left for people to go. And here's the thing. In the short term, immigration can provide an economic boost to a country with low birth rates. But what they've discovered is, and I saw the study, but I don't have it up here. And I read it, and I don't have it up here because I didn't think I was going to have to use it. Over the years, by the time you get to so you have the immigrant, first generation, second generation. By the time you get to the second generation kids, their birth rates track perfectly with the rest of the countries. So you're bringing people in, they track the birth rate down. Okay. So it's a solution that has a 40-year lifespan on it. Well, for us, 40 years was 20 years ago. And notice how everything kind of started falling off a cliff in 2005. 2005 is when you get the run up into the great financial crisis. And then things have just gotten steadily worse since then, despite massively increasing immigration. And then you see it again in 2020. Massive increases in immigration starting in 2021 with the Biden admin. Things just get worse quicker. Because you have something to say, Steve?
Yeah, don't worry about immigration. Because, again, the solution will become evident. As the economy falls and more people are unemployed and the strain on the system is bigger, and yeah, it might be so big that they start to reduce benefits, then the people, the women, won't are going to be complaining about their benefits. And no, we don't want any immigrants coming in here. Plus, the immigrants coming in here will not have, there won't be jobs for them, for the ones that want to
Steve?
work. And so they're not going to come because the economic opportunity isn't here. And, it's just going to kind of correct, I think.
I wish you were correct. I really wish you were.
Oh, why am I wrong?
Europe, for one. The women vote for immigration for two reasons. One, baby's crying. Must protect baby. It's not again, you're trying to apply an economic rule to a fundamentally non-economic problem. The second reason is the women, when you talk to them, their rational explanation for voting for more immigration essentially comes out to indentured servitude. They think that they are going to be getting more people in to do the labor that they don't want to do and that the men refuse to do. So they think that they honestly think that they're going to replace their bad men with hardworking immigrant men. That's the ones who can actually put together a cogent sentence. But those tend to be the ones making policy in these European countries. And if you go listen to speeches out of European women, you will hear various formulations of that, couched in very, very foo-foo language. So the reality is that even that as things crash, women who cannot think rationally actually vote to import more. And we're seeing this. So we're seeing this in Europe. We're seeing this in Canada. And we saw this here in 2020. This one, we do not get to use the tools of social upswell. And that's why I said some things we can do that. Some things are cultural policy, but other things we are going to have to use the tools of government. And here's the thing. It's perfectly legal. The United States has done it before. There were Supreme Court cases back in the 1920s and 30s over these laws, and Supreme Court decided that the government gets to decide, that the Constitution says the government gets to decide who can come in and when. It's actually a core part of the Constitution.
This is a problem, though. I just don't see the path through because there are more female politicians. There will be more female judges. They will have more influence. So I don't see how, even if men had arrived at this idea that we should curtail immigration, that they will be able to advocate it, because men don't, in mass, do not want to piss off the women. We tend to listen to women too much. I don't see a path forward.
That is changing. As you guys know, I follow the immigration debate fairly closely. There are people even in high finance who are starting to wake up to the problems, not just social ones, the financial problems. Go look up a guy on Twitter named James Fishback. He runs a hedge fund called Azoria, Azoria. And he was recently delisted from the NASDAQ, I believe, over statements he made about basically send them all home. And he is now looking to put together a a new ETF that only invests in companies that do not use H-1B labor, which means you won't be getting exposure to the Mag 7 in his ETF. It will hysterically underperform your Nvidias and Microsofts and Googles and Amazons. Okay. But the men, this is the thing, I think, the men themselves being the most directly impacted in ways that they can most easily see. If there's anything that's going to break this system from where I sit, and I'll admit that I could be biased, it's going to be immigration. And again, this is not new in history. Romans went through this. Countless European countries have gone through this and apparently are going to go through it again. The Japanese, interestingly enough, they just last week, they hired a new prime minister who is ridiculously anti-immigration.
Good for them.
Oh yeah, no, it's some. Now, I have to say it's a she, but she is ridiculously anti-immigrant. So it's the thing with the women is the Japanese women do not have this. Oh, I can't use that word again. There's a term on Twitter that's become popular to describe leftists, and I can't say it on YouTube, so I'm trying to self-deletion empathy. There we go.
Okay.
The Japanese women don't suffer this particular affliction. So that's why she could step up and say, kick the immigrants out. And then everyone goes, hooray. The Japanese have other structural problems. I don't think they don't have, I'll put it this way. Japan does not have nearly the number of economic migrants that the United States does. So its problems come from other things. Will reducing immigration help them? Yes, absolutely. But it's not going to be it's not going to have the same overall effect that it would in the United States. But people are saying, oh, well, you just the women love to say, but you don't like people. Yeah, you're right. I don't like people not in my tribe. That's kind of how men think. You're not in my tribe, which means you're coming to steal my shit. Well, look what happened. The other tribes came in, they are looting this country, ransacking it. So in terms of dealing with Steve's problem, I think the men will just decide that we're going to overrule the women. And when the men decide to overrule the women, one of two things can happen. That can happen non-violently, and it breaks the backs of the government institution to do it, or it happens violently. And in the violence case, you're basically rebuilding the systems from scratch at the other side of that anyway.
You pointed out something else. Not the men. The upper class, rich men in charge who have more skin in the game, more finances to lose. They will first figure it out. And so, call them the elite, whatever. They will start to influence things. And yeah, they do have the political influence to cut things off, to change, to start using propaganda to say, yeah, we need to change this. So maybe they will be aligned with the working class men for in this one thing to reduce immigration.
All I can say is not yet. So the news this week, amongst everything going on, is that Amazon is going to fire 14,000 people after filing for 10,000 H-1Bs this year.
Oh.
The notices went out yesterday for Amazon, and the final date of service, if they cannot find a new job inside Amazon, will be January 26th of next year. What is happening is apparently Amazon has actually more. They want to fire more than that. I've heard numbers up to 600,000 people. Now that's going to include all of their various warehouse workers and stuff like that, not just Amazon corporate. The firings yesterday were just Amazon corporate. So, engineers, managers, HR people, etc. Those people. They want to fire 600,000, and they know that this is going to be a problem. So they supposedly have a PR strategy to deal with it. What I will say is that we already know that a large part of that PR strategy is blaming it all on AI. AI does not mean artificial intelligence. They want you to think it does, but what it actually means is another Indian. There, I said it. AI itself cannot replace an engineer. That's fantastical thinking that is going to kill a lot of companies before we get to the other side of this economic crash. But these companies are all in on using the global labor market to arbitrage labor. They absolutely are firing Americans as fast as they can to replace them. So, for the men, I don't care if the elites get it. They're not getting it right now, because for the elites, for and by elites I mean like the CEOs of these companies, all they care about is their stock price. That's all. Hey, stocks are going up. We must be doing something right. Fire more people, the stock goes up. We're doing a good thing. If you ever ask them the question, so you're firing the people you're selling to, they just look at you like you grew a third head. The people who are running the show are not intelligent. I want to make that clear. And I mean this at all levels. Okay, women run the judicial system and the legal system. Hooray. Women's average intelligence is, well, very, very average. It's more average than men. Women are less capable of above average thinking than men are. Okay? Guess what? This was from research done many, many decades ago, and I've since lost it. There are more sociopaths in the C-suite of businesses than there are in jails. And it's like 100 to 1 or something like that. It's ridiculous. Now, we've talked about IQ before. Sociopathy is part of cluster B. Cluster B acts as a negative on IQ. If you have a cluster B affliction, you probably have lost somewhere between 10 to 30 IQ points just for having that affliction. Okay. But the C-suite is full of sociopaths, which means that the average intelligence of the C-suite is capped. And that's before we talk about things like the CEO of Google being an Indian, where the average intelligence of the country is 75 to 80, depending on the measure. Okay. Sundar Pichai might be a wildly above average intelligence Indian, but the chances of him being in a wildly above average of the intelligence of Americans is vanishingly small. He is probably 100 to 105. Why? Because that is a perfectly suitable range when you need a sociopathic headhunter to loot the company.
Okay, on Indian IQ. I heard someone explain this to me. It might have been Edward Dutton. Not sure. But India has a caste system.
Yes, sir.
And there's not intermingling between castes.
Correct.
Not much at all. So for their upper caste, they tend to marry amongst themselves. And the reason they're upper at some point was because they were smarter than average. So if you take the overall average of Indian people, yeah, you get the number you came up with. But if you take the average of certain subsets of caste classifications, you get different answers. So there are a lot of technically pretty good people. Well, they're from a caste that kind of is equivalent to middle to upper middle class, and they can be relatively pretty damn smart people. So the average for the entire country may not be indicative for the average of the typical of an Indian that comes over here and runs a company. They could be up in that 120, 130 range.
That is mathematically impossible.
Okay, well, you know what? That's why I'm throwing it out here, so you can just correct me.
The reason I say it's mathematically impossible is somebody actually did the math. If the average Indian IQ is 76, I think was the number they went with, you can actually just shift the bell curve and say, okay, it's here now. For as we know, there are about 1.4 billion Indians. And India has a population of about 1.4 billion. Okay, that does include Indians working outside of India on non-resident visas like the H-1B. We did the math. The number of Indians with an IQ of 130 or greater is about 850,000. Because the tail, when you move that middle that far down, the tail at 130 is so small that even though they have 1.4 billion, they can only have, and what that means is that they do not get to 1% until 105, I think.
So what you're saying to me is 3 standard deviations, yeah, okay. 4 standard deviations, not a fucking chance.
I think only, if I remember the math correctly, only 1% of their population has an IQ over 105.
So, yeah, okay, let's compare this to US. So, US, I'll call it 100.
It's 98, but yes.
1 standard deviation's 115.
Yep.
You're about 8, I think it's 8% of the people are 115 or above.
16. It's actually quite a bit.
16? 16, yeah. Okay. Then you move up one more to 130.
2 standards. That's 2%. 2.1.
That's it. You're at 2%. Okay. You move up 3 standard deviations. That's 145.
It's 0.1%.
Yeah, 0.1. Okay, it's just damn small. 4 standard deviations. That's
how many
laughable.
How many zeros would you like me to put in front of that one?
Now, as a comparison, you start out with 75. Just for the sake of argument, we'll say it's still 15. 15 gets you
to 90.
Another 15 gets you to 105.
That's that 2%. So it's probably 2%. Oh, there you go. It's 2%.
The third gets you to 120.
120.
That's, what'd you say? 0.2% would be
0.1.
0.1%.
So above 120,
Okay.
they probably have about 1.4 million people above 120. 130,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
about 8.
this people don't really stop to think about this curve.
The curve is brutal, man. It is vicious. Yeah. They aren't bringing their best and brightest because they don't have enough to send. We import from 70% of H-1Bs issued are issued to Indian nationals. Most of those are issued via what we call the F1 loophole. So they come here on an F1 or a J1 visa. That's a student visa. They work in an OPT program, which is 3 years where they don't pay any taxes. And after the OPT program, they graduate and then they can immediately transfer on to an H-1B visa without paying the 100,000 or doing any of that. They just go boop, boop. You know, I was here as a student, I graduate, and now I become an H-1B employee. So, but they send about 100,000 people every year. So in 8 years, we would have cleaned out every single one of their 130 plus IQ people in 8 years. Well, we've been cleaning them out since the mid 90s. So
I thought high tech or these places like Amazon and Google, I thought they needed smart people working there. So why are they laying off so many Native Americans, or, born Americans, and hiring all these foreigners if on average the foreigners are not as smart demographically, or hiring a bunch of people from a demographic group of lower intelligence than the people they're firing? How does this make sense? Don't they need smart people in those jobs?
well, it depends on what your goals are. Okay. You are Sundar Pichai at Google. Okay. And your goal is your mission from the board of directors is we need earnings to stay up. We need our EPS, earnings per share, to stay up because that's how we make our exorbitant sums of money. Okay. Easiest way to do that is to fire expensive people and hire cheap people. Okay, I can do that, but I can't find cheap people in the United States. These Americans want things. They want health insurance, and they want a living wage, and they want a house, and then they want a car, and then they want babies. Oh, damn it. So now, you're Sundar Pichai. You are an immigrant. You came in on H-1B. You think H-1B is the best thing ever. Okay. You'll never be able to hold office in the United States, but you want to wield power in the United States. So you become the CEO of a big tech corporation. And then you immediately turn around and hire your natives. Now, why might you do that? Well, this has actually been a bit of a topic on Twitter. And I've been following this primarily on my non-Red Pill account. What the nepotism that they use is done primarily because they think that, well, they prioritize their own people over Americans. They view Americans as stupid. They view Americans as entitled children, and they honestly do believe that they are smarter than Americans and that they will work harder. And frankly, they do not want to give up on their culture. So,
well, this seems to me to be a little bit of the Dunning-Kruger effect.
No.
Or was it Dunning-Kruger effect?
Dunning-Kruger, yeah.
Dunning-Kruger. So they think they're smarter.
Mhm.
They don't realize that the smart people are the future of the company. So they overestimate their own intelligence and the intelligence of their people, and they think they can be replaced and get rid of people that they dismiss the intelligence of for the future. So they're sacrificing the future for the present, plus economic or the financial incentives are make dollars today, not 5 years from now.
Oh, the
So
financial incentives are worse than that. They're worse than that.
basically, they're if you get rid of all your smart people, your innovative people, which are all the smart people, you're fucked for the future.
Well, so there's another reason. So
Mhm.
the Indians who come over are not they're not Americans. They are Indian nationalists. And look, I have no problem with the concept of nationalism. I have no problem with saying, hey, look, I am from my country and my people. That is kind of how humans have always been. But they come here and they send their dollars to India.
Right. They do.
4% of India's GDP is remittances from the United States. And so the Indian government has a deeply vested interest in keeping this labor pipeline running. The Indian government doesn't give a flying fuck about Americans.
You said 4%?
4%.
And how much for the rest of the world? Remittances back to India.
Almost
Yeah.
nothing. There's some out of Europe and there's actually quite a bit out of Canada.
There you
Because
go.
part of the visa game is you go up to Canada, you work in, so like all the big techs will have an office up in Vancouver. You work up in Canada for a while after your so you can't get your H-1B extended in time. You go up to Canada, you work there for 1 year, and then you can get what's called an L1 transfer visa, an intercompany transfer visa, and there's no limit on those. No limit.
Oh, wow.
You can get as many as you want. Okay. So they and when I was in big tech, they just discussed it over lunch like this was just the thing. Like it never occurred to them that somebody might be sitting there taking notes so that they could explain it on the internet, a decade later and for the world to see. Right. They're just like, oh yeah, no, yeah. If my H-1B doesn't come through, I'm gonna have to go up to the office in Vancouver and I'll have to work there, for a year, and then I'll get an L1 and I'll come back in. The reason is it's easier to get it, and it's actually faster to get an L1 out of Canada than it is out of India. You can get them out of India. It just takes there's just so much more demand for it that it takes more time. That's how much these companies have invested in this labor pipeline. Google has a large office in Vancouver that is nothing but a way station for immigrants coming for non-immigrant H-1Bs coming to the United States so they can work. That all this office does is cycle people through and say, okay, oh, you did your year, we can get you an L1 and it'll come in quick because it's Canada, hooray, and then off you go. That's what we're dealing with here.
That's like economic, and this is economic, cultural, and even like physical displacement.
Yes, it is. It is also cultural displacement. Somebody on Twitter, I was reading his post. He was like, I don't. I mean, we can talk about the validity of this holiday, but he's like, I don't see Halloween decorations anymore. Well, Indians don't practice Halloween; they do Diwali. Diwali. So you guys remember last week, the internet kind of had a bad day last week?
Yeah, because people don't care about Diwali. We don't want it.
That was Diwali. That day was Diwali. Oh. Amazon is so dependent on H-1Bs that they had a major outage on Diwali. Think about that for a second.
Wow.
Yeah, that's where we are right now. And here's what I would say to that. Immigration has become a national security issue. I mean, there's mountains of evidence that that's been true for a while, but
These people don't
So-
care about us.
so the corporations are not going to save you, men. No, they're not going to save you. The corporations benefit from this.
It's even happening here in Fargo.
Yep.
Down the street, the gas station changed hands. Some corporation bought it.
Did you
Oh,
get
gosh.
Patel?
It used to be the Loaf and Jug. Man, they got dumb names for gas stations. No, I think it's Break Time. I don't know. Anyway, it used to be people with my skin color working there. Guess what? Now, whenever I go in there, it's Indian immigrants. They're good people. I have no problem with them. But it's like 100% fully staffed, any shift by Indians. What the hell happened?
Americans are too expensive. I mean, that's the answer.
These were just, I mean, these clerk jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the lower paying jobs around. And none of the people who were working there, they were just average, good, lower wage workers. What the hell are they doing now? Did they get laid off? I mean, one of these ladies, she'd be in there all the time. She worked 40 plus hours a week, didn't make a lot of money. Nice to talk to. Dedicated. She would pick up extra. I mean, she just always was there for the company. I don't see her there anymore. What the hell happened to her?
Okay,
How did this affect her?
I can explain this. So this is a very specific scam. This is well known in the Indian community, hotels and gas stations in particular. So this specific scam is the SBA has a specific loan program for Indians, for foreign nationals. I believe it's called the 8A. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the SBA 8A program. And that gives loans to people who want to start small businesses, to foreign nationals who want to start small businesses in the United States at rates that are not available, at interest rates that are not available to any American in the United States, even through the SBA. So an SBA 7A loan is a pretty typical business loan for an American. That's going to be the one you're put on. The 8A rates are significantly lower than that. They don't publish the rates for those, because if they did, there would be giant pitchforks and riots. So what motels, it's called the Patel Motel. So your Super 8s of the world and gas stations both hit the sweet spot for maximizing the funding out of the 8A program. And so the Patel Motel particularly is a well-known phenomenon in the United States. There was the Motor Hotel Industry Association, or I think that's what it's called. Basically, the Motel Industry Association, whatever it's called, has a conference that they get together, and something like 9,000 people attended, of which 8,000 had the last name Patel. And so amongst this particular clan, the knowledge of how to scam the American system specifically for the purpose of buying a motor hotel has made it back to India. And so they come in, they get these ridiculous rates. And so but they have to pay the loan back after 7 years. So here's how this scam works. Oh, this is fun. So somebody comes in, they get the loan by the gas station, okay, and then somewhere they have to hold it for at least 3 years. Somewhere between 3 to 7 years, though. So they will set up an H-1B pipeline. A guy named Virgil Bierschwale on Twitter has a website. I think it's guestworkervisas.com, I think is where it is. He has it set up where he tracks individual H-1B visas as they move through the pipeline. And you can actually see where these motels will file for and get H-1B visas for front desk staff. He has, if you want to go look at gas stations, you can look at it for gas stations. It's all right there. He has all the granular level data. So the first person comes over with enough money to qualify for the loan, because of course you have to do the down payment and all of that. Then they immediately set up an H-1B pipeline. So they buy the business. Takes about a year to get the H-1B pipeline set up. You get it set up. You bring over your family on that visa. And then year 5, year 6, you've been paying on the loan. Somewhere in there, you'll try and get it on forbearance. You'll claim hardship, which is also why motor hotels and gas stations, because those businesses are in chronic financial distress. They're razor thin margins, so it's very easy to put them into chronic financial stress. You go to the list base, I need a deferral. You do this, around year 3. You run it for, then you sell the business to a family member who gets another 8A loan, and then you pay off your loan with that loan. And you can just cycle them back and forth. And this is what they do. This is a very specific scam that is well known amongst these people. And could Americans be doing these jobs? Hell yes. Gas station.
So meanwhile, you're employing a bunch of people at below
market
regional wages, market wages, and they're sending their remittances back to India.
Of course, yes.
And you're basically skimming the cash off the top while you're underpaying or not properly paying your loan. Maybe you're paying your loan, but you're not actually keeping the money in the business.
Oh, yeah, no. Right,
you're skimming it all out as it goes.
They actually skim. So H-1Bs, there's a minimum salary requirement. So they actually do hit the minimum salary requirement. But the unspoken deal amongst them is that, okay, yeah, we're going to pay you $60,000 a year, but you have to send X amount back in remittances, right? And usually, so in the case of the motel, usually they live on property, so they don't have to buy a house or anything like that. They're just there. I was at one where I actually was walking past. It was very obvious they had taken a couple of rooms and converted them into a living unit. And it was on the first floor. So I was just walking past it, looked in there, it's got lamps and couches and, and a TV and computers. Like, it looks nothing like a hotel room. Right. So, and this is we were staying there for a work trip. It was cheap and near an airport because I like to watch airplanes, and it was the only one that had a view of the airport. Like, that's why I stayed there. But it was fascinating to learn all this. So, I mean, that's a very specific scam, and these kinds of scams, as you import more of these people, are going to become more and more prevalent. But the one thing they will never do is hire an American. Why? Because they're trying to get their people here. Right. So, economics does matter. It's not like when I was saying earlier, economics is, downstream of policy, which is downstream of culture. This is not to say that it doesn't matter, but it's the policy choices that were made In 1965 and subsequently, Ronald Reagan, with his amnesties and he actually opened up the throttle on H1. No, and then George Bush 1 Senior in 1990 opened up the throttle on H1Bs and that stuff. That's the INA Reform Act of 1990. So this is bipartisan, but the economics is there. But it was the policy decisions that brought us to the point that we are today. And that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make here is that yes, this why, because no one asked the question, well, okay, the SBA has this 8A program with super special interest rates for foreign nationals. Why the fuck do we have a super special program for foreign nationals?
Right.
What part of
they
that?
literally hate their own people.
Right. But that was a policy decision. And the reason that I say we're not going to solve this via groundswell is because Steve making noise. The reason I say that we're not going to solve this is because these were policy decisions that were made that no one understands how they impact them. Okay. Now, people are starting to understand. Twitter is starting to put the story together collectively. It is starting to get out there. But unlike, here's what is the reason that the groundswell isn't going to work is because look at how the groundswell is working. What did we say about the groundswell? Do nothing. Don't get married. Don't give women resources. Don't do this. Don't do that. Not doing something works from the bottom up because you just don't do something and the system falls apart because of your lack of participation. The H-1B immigration problem cannot be dealt with by not doing anything because not doing something works just fine for the invaders. It works just fine for the people looking to take advantage of it. Okay.
Rick.
So this one has to be, nope, we are going to turn the immigration system off. We just have to shut it down for a while. We've done it before. In times of economic crisis, which we're headed to, this is not new in American history. This will not be, the media and liberals are going to try and tell you that this is an unprecedented thing, that the United States has never in its history been so evil to those poor immigrants who just want to come to the United States and work and take care of your lawns.
People are not buying it anymore.
Right. But this one has to be an actual policy change because you can't not do something on this one. And so, we've been at this for 3 hours. We have way longer than I thought we would. And Steve is probably making noise because he's getting tired. It is getting late for you guys over there on the East Coast. I'll admit that. So, Steve, are you eating?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. I muted you because you were
Potato chips.
eating.
I'm gonna get my trail mix.
Yeah. So, it's time for us to wrap up, but if you want to solve the birth rate problem, turning off immigration is the only solution that will work. Period. End of discussion. I don't care how much cash you throw at people. If they think that their futures are unstable, they're not going to have kids. Period. But giving them all this cash will make their futures more stable. Not the kind of stability I'm talking about. Nobody wants to have kids if their kids are just going to have to endure racism from immigrants, which is an actual thing. Why would you want to have your kids go through that? Okay. Culture determines policy, determines economics. You cannot fix a policy problem with economics. You cannot fix a culture problem with economics. So I just want to do a quick run through of the policies that we've talked about, and then just a quick kind of how would I, if I was you guys out there, how would I go about doing this? So the policies that we've discussed today: do not get married. This policy is for the purpose of making the feminists insolvent, effectively. Do not give women your resources. Similar, we're starting to now chip away at parts of the divorce grape system. Do not give more of your resources to the state than is absolutely necessary. This policy is designed at crushing the state in terms of its ability to provide for these women, primarily these useless women who use the state as a safety net to divorce their men. Okay. And that means you might not take that really nice, posh 6-figure job that you can buy the nice car on. One of the other things we talked about, this one would require, the next two require an active policy situation. You can't not do nothing your way into this. Demolish EBT and replace it with nothing. And to fix the birth rate problem, immigration must end.
So let me point out another couple things. Don't go out and spend a lot of money and buy a new car, because you're feeding the system with your debt. That's
Correct.
enslaving you.
Yes.
Just live fiscally responsible. Don't take on a lot of debt. Don't go out and buy a fancy house. Buy a modest house if you're going to buy. Live just basic, pleasant existence. Just start, because this also starves the state.
Yep.
And when you deprive women of resources, they're now more concerned about their own situation. And yeah, they're going to be just gnashing their teeth and wailing about where are all the good men. But deprive them of their cushy existence, and maybe they'll be less advocating for these social policies and more concerned with their personal existence. And then us men can step in and correct some of these other policies. I don't know if it's going to work. I can hope.
Point out your and please, guys, if you have questions about how it might work, or you have flaws, you see flaws in our policy prescriptions, reach out, let us know. This is
Hey, we can do this whole stream all over again and invite someone else on here that has better ideas than us. That'd be great.
Yeah.
This sounded like a Cappy episode.
Yeah, I tend to do a lot of those, don't I? And for guys, we've kind of been saying this throughout the episode. Just when a guy brings something up on these, tell him you can bore him with the data. Just tell him what to do. And for your more public advocacy on Twitter, Facebook, I honestly highly recommend spending some time on Facebook. The people on Facebook are largely insulated from Twitter, and so they have no idea where the broader political zeitgeist is going. So they need education. Spend some time on Twitter or on Facebook. Spend some time on spend some time on Blue Sky. Go annoy the libs. That's always fun for the lulz. But the libs are congregating over on Blue Sky, so go join them.
What? Are you going to advocate people go straighten out the people on TikTok too?
Sure, why not? So we are in a war for legitimacy, and legitimacy comes from size, comes from lots of voices saying the same thing. The left realized that they could say absolute lies, straight up bald-faced fabrications, but if enough people said it, the other people would believe it. So we have to get back in their faces and say, no, that is a lie. This is the truth. So what I would recommend is pick one of these to advocate for, one of these policies out of here to advocate for, and advocate for it incessantly, just like a liberal does. You're on Twitter, advocate for it. You're on Facebook, advocate for it. You're on Blue Sky. I want them melting servers, banning and blocking you, advocating for this stuff. You know, if you're a natalist, get out there and advocate for the end of immigration, because the data says that is the fastest way to increase the birth rate. Okay, so get out there and advocate for it. Burn up Twitter. Why? Because the more people there are that say immigration has to end because it did this, it caused this, then people will go, wow, I'm hearing this from all over. Maybe there's something to that. The smart ones will go research the data and go, oh shit, they're not lying. Remember, people are used to being lied to. So you have to hit them with things that are data provably true, which is why I brought up the stuff I did about immigration tonight.
What? But why does immigration lower the birth rate?
Too many people.
That's complicated. I just saw the data, and birth rate's been going down as immigration has been going up. It's just a fact.
Yep. So that really is all you need to say.
And then you can't even argue about your facts versus theirs. No.
Yep.
I don't know. It just is. I looked at it. It just is.
Yep. Immigration goes up, birth rates go down. Immigration goes down, birth rates go up. Look, that's what the data says. So and then you can say, look, I want birth rates to go up. You want birth rates to go up. That means immigration has to go down. The average person can connect with something like that. That is actually how the left does advocacy. They don't bother their acolytes with the facts, with the details and the explanations and the Asperger's interpretations. They would say something like immigration down, birth rates up, immigration down. Obviously, the left doesn't like that particular outcome, but that's how they say things. Nick, did you have something to say?
Oh no, just chewing on some.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry here too.
Okay, this is getting too long. We got to shut her down.
Well,
here.
we do, but that's all I had is just go out, advocate for it incessantly, and advocate for it simply. There you go. Well, thank you for attending my TED Talk, my 3-hour-long TED Talk.
Okay.
So
it's been fun.
Like, share, and subscribe. If you have comments, disagreements, etc., I will be, well, probably not until this weekend because I'm slammed with work, but I'll be monitoring the comment section under the YouTube video. So if you're on Twitter and you have a question or comment, please go over there. Twitter is very hard to use because things get replaced so quickly for this kind of interaction. And we have no idea what we're doing next Wednesday. I'm sure somebody will figure something out. And Saturday,
Steve had something.
Steve has something. Okay, Steve, what do you have?
I haven't done any research on it yet. But what I want to talk about is, what is it? The 5 stages of grief.
Okay.
as it relates to the red pill.
Ooh, this will be fun.
Because and didn't even look them up today. You got the anger phase.
That's number 3.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Have you heard of red pill rage? What? You got the bargaining stage. Purple pill, maybe.
So
I don't know. I gotta
bargaining is number. So it's denial. Oh, we have lots of denial. Then anger.
Okay,
That's the red pill. So I was wrong. That was number 2. Bargaining is number 3. Depression is number 4, and acceptance is number 5.
Oh, denial. Oh, red pill is wrong. Rage. Okay, that's the anger stage. Purple pill. Okay, I'm going to bargain. I'm going to take some of it. And then you have depression, black pill.
Yeah.
And then acceptance. Okay, I guess this is the way things are. I have to make do with it. I have to love a woman as for her nature. And I'm no longer depressed about what the nature of women are. Does this make any sense? Is this a good analogy?
I think it's good enough that we should at least dig into it.
Okay.
Good enough to work with. And guys, sometimes we do that. Sometimes our ideas, we're not really sure if they're going to work, and then we put them in front of the guys, and then they're like, "Oh, that's a really good idea." And other times we're like, "No, not such a good idea."
We'll see.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes next week. Yeah. And then on Saturday, you guys, looks like you're talking about women and children on social media. Oh boy. Tune in if you want to see my wife absolutely tearing into social media women. It'll definitely be more fun than the dry policy stuff that we did tonight. So with that, we will see you all either Saturday or next week. Later.
Later.
There was a firefight! Son of a bitch!